Okay, that's a very good point, actually. Basically, we had to train them and to involve them and explain, okay, how do a French luxury brand as Cedric Grolet works, and we need to give them a lot of storytelling for them to understand, and basically it's training, and of course tasting.
Hello, my name is Renae Leith-Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where to From Here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe.
Hi guys, today we go to Singapore to speak with Raphaël Solakyan. I hope I said that right. Now, I was lucky enough to spend my New Year's Eve with my family at Cedric Grolet Pastry in Singapore. It is one of the most beautiful ways to indulge in some of the best cakes in the world. Now, if you haven't heard of him, Cedric Grolet is probably the most famous chef or patisserie chef in the world right now. And he's very famous for recreating pastries that look like a piece of fruit, but they're actually a pastry. So you scoop into it and out comes this delicious lemon or peach or whatever the fruit is, kind of mousse cakey taste that's really quite extraordinary. And Cedric has had the most astonishing rise to fame and success. He's, of course, French, Parisian, and was discovered by the wonderful general manager at Meurice, which I'm sure is a story that we're going to hear today. But we're here talking to Raphaël, who is actually running Cedric's first big outlet outside France in Southeast Asia in Singapore. And it is an absolutely beautiful place in terms of the interiors and everything. It's a very indulgent experience in the Como Metropolitan Hotel in Singapore. So, Raphaël, welcome to the show today.
Hello, Renee. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, tell us about your relationship with Cedric Grolet and how you have ended up in Singapore in charge of his incredible brand in Southeast Asia.
Okay, so basically everything started in 2020 when I joined Le Meurice Hotel as an intern at this time. And this is where basically I met the Cédric Grolet team. And later on, so I just started to have a nice relationship with them. And they offered me a long-term position in the outlet in Paris, in Cedric Grolet Opera. So 2020, everything started in Le Meurice.
And of course, where you ended up in the opera, I mean, I've been there many times. There is always this huge queue. I mean, to line up for a croissant takes sometimes up to an hour, depending on, normally at the beginning of the day, it's up to an hour. And how much is it? Is it €12 for a croissant?
Less than that, actually, it's $3.
Excuse-moi.
€3.
It's
€3.
Okay, excuse-moi. I thought it was more. I apologize.
No. It's only €3, actually. But that's the price of all the dedication and the quality we put into, actually.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And look, I do know Franca Holtman, who's the wonderful general manager at Le Meurice. And when we were having lunch with my daughter at Christmas last year, she talked about meeting Cedric and about his rise to success. And the story she told was of a very unknown, very young pastry chef ringing her up and saying, I want to work for you. I want to create something amazing. And she said that he hassled her so much that she gave him a task that was almost unachievable in terms of the volume of pastry she needed for a particular event. And he did it and exceeded her expectations, and she hired him. Is that a true story, a version of that?
Actually, of course, I heard about his story, and basically, Franca Altman just challenged him, and he just get it done in the right timeline. But that's 100% the truth, and it shows how hardworking he is. So yeah, definitely true story.
It's amazing. But I mean, it's one thing to succeed when the general manager of one of the best hotels in the world puts you to a challenge. But this is a man who I think he's 35 at the moment now.
Right.
And he has 12 million global followers on Instagram. You have been at his side, so to speak, for most of the journey. How has he achieved his success? What is the magic ingredient for Cedric Grolet?
So I think, first of all, he used to be before being very famous on social media. He used to be a very talented chef, even in France, by becoming the executive chef of Meurice. And then
Yes.
when social media, especially Instagram, became more and more successful and popular, he just had the right way of filming and showing people his heart at the right moment. And basically, I think the pastry are visually very attractive, and
Yes.
he knew how to highlight them in the right way at the right moment. Around 2014, 15, when IG started to be very popular.
It's interesting too because IG is popular, but also with the general managers I'm speaking to at hotels globally, the biggest, most popular business within a luxury hotel and even outside of luxury hotels in hospitality are bread shops, pastry shops. It's really, it was a, maybe it was a question of timing too, because even here I'm sitting in Sydney right now, there are so many new chains of bakeries opening, which is quite surprising in an era where, again, sitting in Australia, health is always a priority and low carbs. But it seems we're seeing a turnaround. So maybe Cedric Grolet's come along at the right time, read that trend as well.
Correct. Actually, he was basically the first chef to open a pastry shop in a hotel, in a palace. He was the first one doing it when he first when he first opened the shop in Le Meurice. And
Yes.
we see more and more interest on bakery, on pastry. And of course, it is definitely a new trend, which is good to have some exposure on the pastry.
And of course, it all comes from France.
We do
The
our thing.
country is so famous for the croissant and for so many wonderful things. And one of the great things when you stay at Le Meurice, where it all began for Cedric Grolet, is you get all of these pastries included in your rate for breakfast as part of your package, right?
Correct. Actually, we are providing we cater all the breakfast for Le Meurice. So basically, the in-house guests are able to try the viennoiserie, the croissant, the pain au chocolat.
It was very clever of Franca. And another little hack for people who really want to try Cedric Grolet and don't want to queue up is you can have the high tea and you can go in, because my daughter and I did that. And you can actually have that at Le Meurice. And again, book, and you don't have to queue up or anything. You can have champagne and his beautiful pastries, which is literally one of my top 5 things to do when I'm in Paris. It's beautiful. I mean, the hotel is stunning and the pastries match the hotel. It's just elegance personified, right?
What is very nice actually with the high tea is the entire menu bite size. So you are able to try to have the full experience. So that's very
Yes.
interesting with the high tea. That's this point to be able to discover and to have the big picture.
No, absolutely. And can you explain to us these fruits that I was talking about in my introduction, these pastry fruits? How are they made and how would you describe them?
So basically the fruit, they are hyper realistic and they are all handmade. So we don't use any mold, and all the finishing touch are handmade. And basically we're using a hairbrush, torch to get the right texture, the right color. And they're all, like in the nature, they are all slightly different in purpose, actually.
Wow.
That's very important, just as in the nature. And we want to keep the craftsmanship. We don't want to create any mold and to have to be a cookie cutter, basically. So that's very important.
Absolutely.
That's very important. So that's for the fruit. Basically, there is two big universe, two big range of product for the chef, which is flowers and fruits.
Hmm.
So the fruit, they are hand sculpted, and the flower, they are hand piped. So basically, that's
Wow.
the two big inspiration of the chef: nature, flowers, and fruits.
And how long does it take to make? I mean, do you know? Like, it must take hours if this is all being done by hand.
Correct, correct. Actually, there is many steps until the final product, and it takes like easily, yeah, half a day, half a day. Depend on
Half
which,
a day to make one.
correct, depend on which one, but basically there is a lot of process we need to wait. Um, Basically there is some process to follow, of course. So depend on which one, but it's a lot of work.
And so, how many people work in the Cedric Grolet Patisserie or in Le Meurice or even in Singapore? And are they working 24/7? I mean, how do you do this? How is it possible?
So basically there is around 30 people working in the front and back, and basically we are producing 7 days per week. We are closed 2 days, but basically we are always producing in the back to make sure we're ready for the opening. So it's almost 24 hours per day, 7 days a week.
Wow. That's phenomenal. And I'm interested to know because I've met Christina Ong, who of course founded the Como Hotel Group with her daughter Melissa, because Christina Ong, the initials of Christine and her daughter, formed the brand name Como, which I think is fabulous. But their focus has always been health and longevity and wellness. Because of course their founding property is Como Shambhala in Bali, where I've also been, which is all about sort of healthy food, wellness programs. So it's really intriguing that Cedric Grolet, which is pastries, his very first shop is in the Como's first hotel in Singapore, where in fact Christina and her daughter are from. So how did that all take place?
So actually the most important is always about having a strong connection. Both are very like into details and
Yes,
everything is perfectly done. So I would
that's
say
true.
quality and sense of details.
And for you, how's the response been in Southeast Asia, in Singapore, to Cedric Grolet? I mean, he was so huge when he started in Paris. How has it been there?
So basically it is the first outlet we opened in Asia, and basically we had a big opening effect. So it was of course we were ready for it, but it was quite at the beginning it was crazy.
You
And
had
we
queues there too, right?
correct. And what we try to do always is trying to adjust to the local market, and we're still doing. Basically, when we first opened, created a Singapore special, which is a dragon fruit
Oh,
and moon cake. So that was our way as well to introduce to the market. Always try, of course, we have our knowledge and our own signature, but we still wanted to meet our guests, our customer, by using local products like
yes.
the dragon fruit and the moon cake, which was like specially made for the opening, actually.
Wow. Wow. And obviously very well received.
Correct. And especially same as the croissant. The croissant was one of the items that people keep asking actually. And yeah, such a success actually.
And I can say too, Como Metropolitan, I've reviewed it. You can see that on my website. I really love the hotel. When you check in there, you get a beautiful sort of vanilla. You can probably tell us exactly what it is, cake in the fridge as a welcome present. And you get a croissant for every guest complimentary at breakfast, which is just wow.
Correct. Like we provide amenities for hotel guests on arrival. And the one you had was the very famous signature vanilla flower.
Mm.
So this
I
one,
think it's my favorite. It's my favorite of everything I've ever had of his.
that's basically the iconic piece, the iconic creation of the chef, the vanilla flower. And I would say as well so this one is for the flower and the lemon. So these two are
Yes.
very iconic products. And of course, if you are in-house guests, you are able to have the croissant at the breakfast.
Yeah, it's a great introduction for people who don't know that he's there. for guests. It really does. And when you taste that croissant, it's not your average croissant. You go, oh, there's something about the quality of the butter. You would know again. But as a layperson hotel reviewer, it's just like you stop and go, hang on, that is melting in my mouth in a way that most croissants don't.
Okay, basically the croissant, there is no secret. The flour is imported all the way from France.
Yes.
As the flour is the main ingredient, it will be the main, like the structure of the taste. So that's very important, the flour. Then the butter. Butter is very important, good quality butter. So ingredients, then freshness. Meaning that we start doing the dough at 2:30 in the morning, around 2:30 in the morning, to be ready at 8:30. And basically it's never frozen. So it starts from the scratch until the final product. So it gives basically the texture is different. So that's part of it. And of course, the third point would be the technique. That would be the no secret, but that would be the most important and easier to say than to do, I would say.
And what about the staff? I mean, having staff who are French and very French, très français à Paris, and then Singaporean staff. What are the differences that you've detected?
Okay, that's a very good point, actually. Basically, we had to train them and to involve them and explain, okay, how do a French luxury brand as Cedric Grolet works, and we need to give them a lot of storytelling for them to understand, and basically it's training, and of course tasting. We need to involve them in our story and to bring them on board by explaining the history of the brand and explaining and make them taste. That's the most important, and explain them the why this country is different. But actually it was, and we're still learning, but it's a lot of training.
And in terms of the people coming in to the patisserie, are most of them tourists at the moment, or are they Singaporeans, or a mix?
Actually, that's mixed. I would say, of course, first would be Singaporean, and we have a big French community as well, a big French community. And we see a lot of interest from Indonesian. We do have a lot of Indonesian, and they are very interested in cakes, and they want to bring back to their family in Indonesia. But basically, I would say Singaporean, French, mixed, and Indonesian.
Well, because I used to live in Indonesia, and I have to say that I had never come across a culture of people so obsessed with food in a good way. They love eating, food, restaurants, because I run a luxury hotel consulting business, and I quickly learned, and my job is to go into operations and work out how to incentivize staff, how to retain staff, how to keep them happy, that sort of thing, and troubleshoot. And I always had this perception that people always wanted more money, and that's how you kept staff. That is not the case in Indonesia. It's often food. If they have better food in the staff canteen, if they have food incentives, even in my consulting, when I do quizzes, if there's a chocolate from Australia that they've never seen that's a reward, they engage. So I'm not surprised to hear that. It's a wonderful culture that they really, and they're so thin.
Actually,
They don't put on weight, but they eat so much.
Correct. They are such foodie, and they are very interested in how we made the croissant, how we made the cakes. So basically, it's such a pleasure to explain them and to welcome them to the outlets.
I can imagine. And Raphael, what is coming in the future for Cedric Grolet? Are we going to see more outlets around the world? Can you give us some insights into where the brand is going?
Of course. So, of course, the group is still expanding, but there is one very important point, which is quality come first. So we need to control the expansion in order to keep the quality. So of course we will expand worldwide, but we will do it wisely by the most important is keeping the quality. So yeah, few outlets are in the pipeline, I would say.
How exciting. Any chance of coming to Australia or not yet?
So far, it might be the future, but so far maybe we're going to focus on maybe France, south of France.
Okay.
But
Didn't you have a
very
pop-up in Saint-Tropez? You had a pop-up, didn't you?
correct. We do have a permanent shop, and
Oh,
we are partnering as well. We are partner with Les Erelles in Saint-Tropez and in Val d'Isère,
mhm.
the ski resort.
Oh, wow. I couldn't think of anything. I've learnt to ski in Val d'Isère. I'm a very bad skier, but in that cold weather, there's no better place for beautiful, rich pastries. I can imagine it's so popular.
Correct, correct.
So maybe more in France, but you have to talk to Mr. Grolet and say, there's people all around the world who want his pastries, not just France.
Correct, actually, and we are doing our best, especially the manpower, especially the head chef. That's what we need to open and to expand worldwide. We need the head chef and the qualified head chef. So usually we open with all the heads are from the headquarter, and then they move to the location to open the outlet, and then there is some local staff that we train, but we
Yes.
always have the heads from the headquarter, either in France or in London. But that's why we really need to control the expansion slowly, slowly
Oh,
to make sure we grow like organically and in a good way.
with the level of detail that you've described, without that, it won't work. And I didn't ask you about London because you're in the Berkeley Hotel in Knightsbridge there. That was your second outlet?
Correct. So basically, I went there just as a task force, and it was
Mm,
so basically very interesting. The Berkeley outlet was the first outlet abroad France.
yes.
So that's the first one, and it was such since the beginning. Actually, it was the craziness, and especially as I said, we always try to come up with a special, and our special at the Berkeley was the scones. So we did a look
Oh, because
like
it songs
scone.
are so English.
Correct, correct, correct.
Well, and did they love them?
Yes, very popular, very, very popular. And actually, the Middle East client, there is a lot of Middle Eastern in London, and we're doing very well actually.
Wow. That's fantastic. Well, I absolutely love the brand. And before you go, we ask all of our guests, Raphael, where to from here? And you can tell us what you're doing for your day, what your next big holiday is, or what your next project is, whatever you like. So where to from here for you, Raphael?
Continue exploring Southeast Asia, definitely, and continue focusing on my career to just grow and have have a yeah, trying my best to have a nice career and exploring
Yeah,
again and again
absolutely.
Southeast
Well,
Asia.
how old are you? If that's not a rude question, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Yeah, so to be 32 and running, what is essentially a global empire there in Southeast Asia is not a small achievement. Congratulations. And I'm sure we will see many big things from you. Thank you for your time. And I will be back in Singapore soon to have a champagne and I think a croissant or something else in your beautiful pastry restaurant if you'll have me there.
Thank you very much, Renee. Thank you for inviting. It was a pleasure to discuss and looking forward to welcome you, actually, to welcome you.
Absolutely. And please keep in touch.
We will, 100%.
Merci beaucoup, Raphael.
Merci. Merci, Renee.
Oh, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.